How would Ratan Tata like to be remembered?
Very quickly, what I said earlier, I'd like to be remembered as a person who made a difference.
It never was conceived of as being the cheapest car. It was conceived of as being a car that would give the people of India an opportunity to own a car that had not been within their reach before. We are a country of 1 billion people, and most of them are denied connectivity. I hope that we can make a change. The first 5 years were spent in creating an environment where change was possible. And then I've been blessed with an organization that has been displaying considerable spirit in wanting to make a change. And many things that we did had not been done before, but I was always pleased to see that the response from the organization was tremendous. Without that, it could not have been done. I would have to humbly say that I failed. One of the first promises I made publicly was that we'd rationalize the group and reduce the number of businesses and reduce the number of companies. I often talk about the first thing that I did with great gusto, which was to get us out of the soaps and toiletry business, which didn't seem to fit. And I ran headlong into an issue of what were we doing? We were getting rid of a company that had second and third generation employees. It was an unheard of thing, and who was this person who was making change for the sake of change? And I got attacked from all quarters. The media attacked me, the stock market attacked me, and of course there was a resentment from within the company as to which company would follow now after this. The net result was a new chairman so keen to succeed and not wishing to have failure, suddenly being bombarded from all quarters, tried to look at other forms of growing. I think convincing myself that it would work is a judgment call in terms of the faith you put in your people to do this. And case in point was on the Indica. Conventional wisdom said that you couldn't enter the car business without having a collaboration, and certainly to think of designing a car domestically and producing it was an unheard of thing. My friends, as we launched the car, started to distance themselves from me. It wasn't for me, it was to distance themselves from failure.
Right.
And it was the trust one had in the young team to put this together that drove it. The other is that from time to time, I think change has caused a lot of people in the company to question the wisdom that such a change would be based on. The issue of having the need to grow and the need to take a view that you'd grown in India in some cases. We had a fairly substantial market share, and that as a group we ought to look beyond the shores of India to another economic cycle in which we would operate. Now that has its pluses and minuses. We didn't ever foresee that Europe would go through the downturn it did, right. And that was where our major investments lay. So it was a quest for growth and changing the ground rules to say that we could grow by acquisitions, which earlier we had never done.
Right.
When Jaguar and Land Rover got acquired,
right.
And that was far more emotional and far more visible. Different reactions from different quarters. Some concern that an Indian company was going to take over vaulted two very venerable brands. What were they going to do with it?
Yeah.
Ford had made and not been able to make a profit with them. So what was this Indian company that had no experience in the premium car segment do with such a company? Concerned by the workers that we were going to close down plants and move them to India, and a general feeling that in England that another British brand was gone. Quite frankly, all we did after we got involved was to tell the management of the company to make their own destiny, that we'd support them in terms of what they wanted to do. And of course, the marketplace has been very conducive to what we have done. All our companies have had strong CEOs that have run the businesses, and the worst thing that can happen is to determine where the company is going through the eyes or the mouth of one person, i.e. the CEO.
Right.
Far more is gained by walking on the shop floor and talking to the people and trying to communicate. One of my weaknesses has been, I think, I've never communicated enough or adequately with our people, partly because I'm a shy person, and secondly, because I didn't realize the importance of communication. But I think communication with the employees is an exceedingly important function that any company chairman has to do and be visible in that sense. We, I think, as businessmen, have to concern ourselves and removing the image of being the ugly businessman, the venal businessman, and being heads of companies or leaders whose interests go beyond that of their company to the communities they serve. We can do that. We can undo an image that has been created over the last century of greed and self-serving desires. So I think it's something that we need to be sensitive about. A good idea driven by people who have merit has a better chance of being supported and financed and nurtured than you might find in developed countries. Very often a good idea dies in a developed country, or even, a developing country, or even a developed country, and that person finally makes a success. And it's because the environment allows that to happen. So I think there's a need for a supporting environment to take place, but I would hope that we would see more and more local companies being entrepreneurial and creative and being at some stage a global player.
Right.
To me, I think short term, the transition of suddenly having a lot of time and being able to be the master of that time is a lovely luxury. Whether that luxury becomes boredom as time goes on is something that will need to be seen, and how it gets filled with other pursuits.